Hey everyone, welcome back to TOPHER Drives, where this morning we are commuting in this urban green 2024 BMW X5M competition. This thing was just facelifted for the 2024 model year, or LCI'd as BMW likes to call it, and I've been driving it for the last few days, and this morning I've got to do some bring a trailer photography, so I'm bringing you all along with me on my morning commute. It's early, it's 9:18 in the morning, and well, we're gonna hit the highway on this kind of cold, drizzly day in this hyper SUV. So for 2024, as this has been LCI'd, we have a new front and rear fascia. This X5M has gotten kind of a nose job, if you will. It now has this black trim that kind of angles in and out. I would say kind of similar to like the M3 and M4, except the whole thing isn't a kidney grille. They've kind of spliced it with this little piece in here, which would nicely fit a Euro plate if you were in Europe. Additionally, we have an entirely new engine in this 2024 X5M. Gone is the S63, and in its place, the new S68 with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. Horsepower, 617 and 553 pound-feet of torque. That, of course, goes through a ZF 8-speed automatic to all four wheels. Today, we're running on some Michelin Pilot Sport 4S summer performance tires, so we're going to take it easy as it is about 45 degrees and wet out. But these tires haven't seemed to do too bad of a job. I drove this around yesterday, burned about half a tank of fuel, and traction seems to be decent. Here is our newly revised boot. You can see those taillights coming on because it knows I'm close with the key. Let's open up the hatch, and in normal X5 form, this still has a split folding rear boot, which I think is nice because you can have yourself a seat back here if you would like, for tailgating, I suppose. There's a worm on the ground. Actually, the coolest part about this rear area is that your trunk floor has a shock, so you can get to your spare tire very easily, or if you want to stick some things under here, you don't have to hold this up while doing so. I really appreciate that. BMW thinks of things like this, and I really, really like that. We also have a privacy shade back here. If you want to hide what you are transporting on your commute, you're able to do so. One touch of this button up here will fold both sections of the hatch. We have quad exhaust tips, and since this is a mild hybrid now, when I remote start it, it doesn't really make any noise at all. So we'll lock it here, and then we'll triple click our BMW button, and that will remote start this X5M. And that's it. It kind of just like pulsates to life. But this S68 makes an excellent noise when you are on power, and we'll make sure to give you guys a good taste of that on today's commute. Let's quickly jump in the back seat. We'll show you what room is like back there, what amenities are like, and then we'll get on the road. I've got to be out to Vintique Motors by 10, so we've got to leave this parking lot within the next couple of minutes here. We have a Taruma brown interior. I've got to say, the spec on this thing is just epic. When this showed up, the TOPHER and I were absolutely thrilled with the spec. We have a black Alcantara headliner in this thing. One thing I will say is with the X5M, with these extended rocker panels, these side skirts, you kind of have to step over, especially when it's wet, because it just gets your pants wet. So you got to kind of leap into the car. Of course, we have a console back here with some cup holders that pop out, which I can never understand how to get them back properly because they always sound like they're breaking when you put them back, but I think it's just like that. And you have a console back here to hold a phone or an iPad or whatever you would like to put in there. We have a climate panel back here that isn't on because I remote started the car, so none of this is working yet. We have sunshades back here, which won't be needed on a gray day like today. We also have the optional Bowers & Wilkins sound system. We'll do a little test on that once we're kind of towards the end of the video. But it's an X5. I mean, I'm super cozy back here. It's great. We've got M seat belts. You guys are probably all quite familiar with the X5 by now. I mean, it's been around since the late 90s. So it just keeps evolving and evolving and getting even better, and the X5M gets more and more hardcore every year. This is the hardest core X5M I've ever driven, and I'm a little bit shocked by how hardcore it is, so we'll talk about that once we get on the road. Let's show you what we have up front. I mean, just beautiful attention to detail on these door panels. Leather throughout, even the lower part of the door panel is finished in leather, so always love to see that. We have illuminated X5M badges on our headrests with these beautiful sport seats. I love the contrast between the Taruma and the black here in the middle. Such a good just level on the dash there. Oh man, it just looks fantastic. BMW generally does a pretty good job with their color contrasting on interiors. Okay, here we are up in the facelifted X5M. Let's officially start it up here. So what I love is this is obviously an individual color, and it shows the X5 on the screen in individual urban green. So it's nice that that's just a cool little out of touch. And actually, before we get in here, I just realized I forgot to show you guys this new engine. And I want to talk about something that I'm a bit disappointed with. So here it is. You can tell it's an S68 by this new cover with the red trim little things on it. But there should be something right here. You guys all know what I'm about to say. This is an individual color, but we don't have an individual plaque on this engine bay. At least I don't think. I mean, with new cars, usually they put it here, and we don't have one. So I'm a little disappointed, but you can hear how smooth that S68 runs. Nice. I'm such a BMW individual nerd that I love to see the little individual plaque. And the last couple of cars, we had an Alpina XB7 that was an individual color that had a plaque, but it wasn't filled out. And now this one just doesn't have a plaque at all. So I don't know entirely what's going on with that. Apparently it's because it's kind of just such a common thing now for people to order individual cars. They don't give you a special plaque anymore. Up here we now have iDrive 8 for our facelift. Otherwise the interior is pretty much unchanged. Of course, you know, there are other dashboard changes with the iDrive 8. We now have these little tabs to control our vents, and our ambient lighting has all of these individual lines. This X5M, of course, has wireless Apple CarPlay. I've got that hooked up right now. We're going to use Waze this morning to get ourselves to Vintique Motors. Oh, look at that. We're actually running a little bit early, so we'll hit some corners before we get started on that route. What I like about this new version of CarPlay is that, say you're going somewhere on Apple Maps, we'll just kind of spoof this and go to a Speedway gas station, even though I don't need to go to a Speedway gas station. It shows you on the cluster. So unfortunately that doesn't work with Waze. As you can see, I can go back to my Waze waypoint here and it doesn't show me anything, but I can have my Apple map here in the cluster. So that is always nice. Additionally, we can have a number of other things, of course, here in the cluster. Today I'm going to run on the Trip computer because I'm curious to see what MPG is going to be like today on our commute. EPA rates this at 18 MPG on the highway, so we don't really have too great of a number to work with from the start, but I have faith that this X5M will get over 20. Additionally, split folding armrest. We've got a little cubby here with a wireless charger, heated and cooled cup holders, a USB-A port, which is interesting. I think everything would have been USB-C by now. iDrive controller. We have our BMW M shift knob. We have the exhaust button. We have M mode. All things that we don't need for a commute. So let's talk about how comfortable this car is to roll out of bed in the morning, jump into, and do your daily commute. We have a 360 camera as well as a rear-facing camera, of course. Very nice quality on these. Very nice rumble from this S68 at low speeds. Now, before we talk about the X5M, I want to talk about the X3M, because that's the M SUV that I have the most time in. I've driven a couple of them at this point, starting with, I drove the first one a couple of years ago, and I had no idea how hardcore BMW made their M SUVs. And it makes sense. I'm not bashing them for that, because if they're going to put the M badge on something, they're going to mean it. And boy, do they mean it with the X3M. It's so hardcore, it sometimes feels more aggressive than an actual M3. So I was wondering maybe if that same philosophy would apply to the X5M, because it's larger, it's more luxurious. I feel like more people have bought it for longer. It's existed longer, so maybe it would be kind of a soft, squishy dentist car. It isn't. It's extremely hardcore. The ride is very stiff, and it is bonkers fast. And it looks like we are just about up to temp, so we can kind of explore the limits of this S68 here. But this car is just, I mean, we'll go into M1 mode. We'll shift some gears. Just keep in mind, guys, I have freezing cold tires. £553 feet of torque, no joke. 617 horsepower, even less of a joke. Brakes, unbelievable. This is not treated as an SUV as first priority. This is an M car first, before anything else. And if that's your thing, if that's what you love, if you want your daily driver to be a razor blade, then this is the car for you. This thing does not mess around. Yeah, no real grip this morning, as you saw there. It's so quick, and it's so hardcore, and that's good in most ways. I can live with that in 9 out of 10 ways. The one thing I don't love about this X5M is its inability to be soft. Pretty much every setting, we'll take this out of M1 mode, go back into automatic here for a sec. Even in its efficient drive mode, its soft suspension setting, it is very stiff. Also, always very eager to go quickly. I'm in here, we can display. Okay, actually first things first, before I get too far down the rabbit hole, let's reset our trip once again, because I want to keep track of our MPG here while we're on the highway. Oh, Waze is so confused right now. It doesn't think I'm on an actual road.
Where do you want to go?
Vintique Motors.
Getting directions to Vincent Motors.
No, that's wrong. Come on, Siri, work with me here.
Where do you want to go?
Vintique Motors.
One option I found is Salt City Antiques on
No.
West Michigan Avenue. Where do you want to go?
Vintique Motors, Livonia, Michigan.
Getting directions to Vintique Motors.
Oh, thank goodness. I just like to have the map going. I know where I'm going, but I just, sometimes it's nice to have the map giving you directions. Okay, before that whole thing, I was talking about how even in its most efficient and soft drive mode, it is always sort of eager to go, which means sometimes when you give it 20% throttle, it's revving itself to 6,000 RPM. So it's just like a very eager sort of like person that's just always it's like it has ADHD. So I suppose I can relate to it in that respect. There's a new Ranger Raptor. Nice. It is remarkable how quiet they make this thing, though. I'd imagine lots of soundproofing. The only noise we're getting is from these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. Otherwise, it's very quiet, this thing. The S68, in typical BMW form, loud when you want it to be, whisper quiet when you don't, and it's all good. We have cruise control, obviously. One touch of that cruise control button set us up there into our cruise mode. Impact harshness, not great. What is going on with this today? I don't think this is a problem with maps. I think this is a problem with my phone not knowing where it is. Okay, we may just have a mapless day here. Today, on our very intense commute, I try to figure out the navigation system in the BMW X5M. All right, let's disable our cruise control. Let's talk about some other highway manners. Say you want to go for a pass. Within about half a second, you are breaking the speed limit by 20 miles per hour, so obviously passing power very adequate. This 8-speed is very quick to downshift. It wastes no time, and it'll downshift from 8th gear to 5th gear in like less than a second. So that's always nice for a good highway cruiser. Of course, BMWs are meant to go on the Autobahn. We also get these big carbon fiber paddle shifters now, standard in 24, and there's no longer a regular X5M. They're all competitions now. So prior to this, the competition pack added like 17 horsepower and, you know, a couple of extra bits here and there, but now they're all comps, so every dentist can feel equally special, not have to tick an extra box. Carried over, of course, we have configurable M modes. You guys saw me put this into M1 mode earlier. If you go into a mode where traction control is turned off, you do have to confirm that and double press. I like my M1 drive mode because it leaves everything on. I have steering and suspension in comfort. Not that that really matters, because even comfort on the ride is quite stiff. Reactions from these paddles are just instantaneous. I'm just realizing I'm spoiling our fuel economy. So we'll calm down on that for a second. It doesn't even have to downshift to get you around somebody. It has such adequate torque from 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. It just kind of gets on with it, does the thing. Let's hope we got a little bit of heat in these tires at this point. So we're going to take this exit here. Although I imagine behind quite a few other people, we'll have some room to catch them up. I believe Pilot Sport 4S is not super ideal below 50 degrees. Today it is below 50 degrees. It's a cone. The steering feel is alarming because, of course, it's very quick, but this is quite a large vehicle. I mean, this is what used to be called a full-size SUV. Now you have the X7 for that, but what do they call this? A mid-size SUV at this point? The steering feels about the same as it does in an M3. Now, this is not as apparent as it is in, say, a Giulia Quad and a Stelvio Quad. It's not the exact same, but it is still very quick steering to where, you know, this big thing on stilts feels like it may just completely do a barrel roll. But I trust it. I know BMWs are not, I don't even have the rollover warning on my visor, so that's probably not even a worry anymore. It is just always something that's alarming when you get in a hot SUV and the steering is so sharp. One thing that BMW always gets right is their driver's compartment. I have so much room up here, I can kind of rest my legs and they don't even touch any of the surfaces. So that's nice for if you're commuting, if you're going on a long road trip. No worries about feeling cramped in a BMW X5. This thing loves to go 90. You just don't even ask it to, and it just... There it is, it's going 90. So I'm very comfortable. The seat as well does a great job. And if you're on a road that isn't offensive like this one today, and honestly like all of the roads I've been driving on, you don't notice the ride, but there are quite a few roads in Michigan that are less good than this, where you do. So if you're somewhere that has roads that aren't great, I don't know that I would necessarily go for the M X5. The good news is BMW makes a slightly detuned version of this car called the X5M60i. Now, before you attack me in the comments, it is literally the same engine. It also has an S68, so it just makes, I think it makes like 80 less horsepower. So you still get your S68. Obviously the suspension is different, a lot of the interior bits are different, but the car also costs quite a bit less. This X5M as spec is 140 grand. And for the M car factor, for the special factor, I understand it. And the urban green paint is $5,000. If you can go without all of the accessories, you can have yourself an X5M comp for the mid 120s. But you can have an M60i for just under 100 grand. What I like about the M60i trims of these BMWs is that they're bonkers quick, but you don't really sacrifice anything that you do with an X5M. Of course, what you're sacrificing here is just a little bit of comfort when you're going over roads that are less than perfect. And you just, I don't know, you never have the feeling that this car is able to calm down. It's kind of like a bull terrier. It's always wanting to go and spin and just, let's play again. Let's rev to 7,000 RPM. And you're just like, no, I just want to relax and go on a commute. And another thing, look at this steering on the highway. I mean, little adjustments and the car is just all over the place. Wahaha. 19.7 mpg. I would say that is a pretty good figure for the way that we've been driving this X5M today. We're gonna switch-a-rooney to our, no, not to our map, actually. I want route preview. I do like that. There we go. You can see that I'm exiting here in 5 miles. I do like this display here, this map. I can't confidently say I understand how to use it, but it's there. Suppose while we hit kind of the middle of our trip here, why don't we head over and test out this Bowers & Wilkins sound system. This is going to be like my most played song of 2024 because it just like constantly plays in the background. Oh good, is it not working now? There we go. With Bowers & Wilkins, we get all these different settings. We'll go through them all. I like that. So I've been running it on stage. I kind of feel that gives the best hard punches to the bass and everything. Now, this is a good sound system, but all right, I'm trying to think of how I put this in a polite way. It's a good sound system, but it's the least appealing Bowers & Wilkins option that I've heard. For instance, like in a Volvo, it's kind of night and day from the bass, the Harman Kardon. It's such a good upgrade, whereas this, it's good, but the Harman Kardon is kind of just as good in the X5. So I don't really know why you'd spend the extra like $4 grand or whatever it is for this Bowers & Wilkins. I suppose it's kind of for the customization aspect for all of these different settings that you have in here. I've also had to turn the bass up because at a standard EQ, it doesn't really punch the way I'd want it to punch. So the standard tune on this, I'm not really a big fan of. So, you know, I've kind of had to do some adjustments. Overall, it's good, but it's not great. So just kind of keep that in mind here. If you're thinking about speccing an X5 or an X5M, I don't really think that you need the Bowers & Wilkins. I think people have been watching my videos because lately everybody merges at 70. Look at this, 71. It's fantastic. The X5M merges at 90 because that's just, it's in its blood to do so. All right, so let's address some things with the X5M. I want to go ahead and say that I'm not telling you not to get an X5M because this car is stiff, it's hardcore, but it is still livable. I don't think that they've made it so stiff and so hardcore that it's unbearable. But I mean, this is coming from a guy that road tripped an M4 CSL and survived just fine. So if I can do that, then I feel like I can pretty much commute or road trip in any M car. And even though this X5M is hardcore, I would say it is still the most comfortable out of all the M cars. So if you're looking for just a little bit of comfort, but like 90% hardcore, then have yourself an X5M. If you don't really care about having 617 horsepower and having all of these configurable drive modes and everything like that, then just have yourself an M60i. It's got the same engine, it's got the same transmission, it looks mostly the same. So I really don't think you're missing out on all that much. I mean, honestly, any configuration of the X5 is gonna be nice. I really, really love the X5. It's probably the best BMW right now as far as quality goes. We need this exit. Excuse me, BMW driver. At least I'm using a turn signal. Look at that, it's giving me the Need for Speed turn arrows like I'm in a race. Haha. This person has about 16 registration stickers on their license plate. Explains why they were sleeping at the green light. Okay, so I know we haven't done like a ton of performance driving in today's review, but head over to the TOPher. I'm sure he'll have his review out by the time this Commute is out, and you guys can see some proper driving, because he is, of course, a much better driver than I am, and you guys can see what this X5M can really do. But you come to TOPher Drives to see how it is on a commute, and I hope that you guys have gotten a good idea of that today here with this little X5M Commute. This is what I'm on about with, yeah. That was intentional. I wanted to do a brake test. Let's get her backed in here. This is a cool car. I feel like I haven't complimented it enough. It's cool that BMW doesn't mess around when they put an M badge on something. And I like that they kind of hold true to that. And even with the X5, they say, you want an M car? Here's an M car. We don't care that it's wrapped up in the body of a massive SUV. It's still an M car. It's still bonkers fast. It still handles. You could take this thing to the track and drift it around corners if you wanted to. So that's kind of the point that I'm trying to get across here, is this isn't a bad recipe. I'm not saying anything bad about this. I just want you all to know that it isn't going to be a super comfortable option for daily driving and commuting and things. So if you're somebody that wants to take your SUV to the track and live somewhere where the roads are beautifully smooth, maybe if you live in California, you want to do canyon runs with your SUV, this would be a great option for you. I just don't know that I would go with this here in Michigan with our kind of crappy roads and everything else. But I do love this X5M. I think it's a really cool thing to exist with our flooded SUV market, to have an option like this. Just make sure you step over these big rocker panels. But anyways, I hope my message has come through well enough to you guys. And that'll wrap it up for us today with the X5M. If you have any questions about the X5M, leave them in the comments below. But as for today, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.